Hello, my dear students, and welcome to English for Palestine, grade 7. Our lesson today is about must and have to. So by the end of this lesson, you will be able to use must and have to correctly. Let's start. Must, have to. Must and have to have the same meaning. They both have the same meaning. We use them to talk about a rule or something that is very important or very necessary. Again, both must and have to have the same meaning. There's no difference in meaning between must and have to. We use them to talk about a rule or something necessary or important. We use have to when the subject is I, you, we, and they. But we use has to when the subject is he, she, it. Again, we use have to when the subject is I, you, we, and they. But we use has to when the subject is he, she, or it. Examples. Let's look at these examples together. He must get up now. He must get up now. She has to. She has to go to school. I have to do my homework. Again, if you notice here, he must get up now or he has to get up now. The same meaning. We use has to because here the subject is she, and we use have to here in this example because the subject is I. Now, let's move to don't or doesn't have to. Don't or doesn't have to. The opposite of have to is doesn't or don't have to. Have to, the opposite is doesn't or don't have to. We use don't have to or doesn't have to when it is not necessary to do something. When it is not important to do this thing. Again, we use don't have to or doesn't have to when it is not necessary, when it is not important to do something. Again, we use don't have to if the subject is I, you, we, and they. And we use doesn't have to when the subject is he, she, or it. Okay? Great. Now let's look at these two examples. I don't have to call home. My mother won't worry. It is not necessary or it is not important to call home because my mother won't worry. He doesn't have to go home yet. It's not late. So it means that it is not important. It's not necessary to go home now because it is not late. Now, to summarize, please, again, we use must or have to when we talk about something necessary or very important, and there is no difference in meaning between must and have to. We use have to when the subject is we, they, you, I. And we use has to when the subject is he, she, or it. Okay? Now, the opposite of have to or must is doesn't have to or don't have to. We use don't have to when the subject is I, we, they, you, and we use doesn't have to when the subject is he, she, or it, and it means that it is not necessary or it is not important to do something. Okay, my dear students, let's now practice using have to, has to, don't have to, or doesn't have to by filling the gaps in these sentences with these words. Here we have 5 sentences. I'd like to remind you that when you decide to choose which one of these words you have to use, think of the action of the sentence or the verb in the sentence. If it is important, we use has to or have to, and of course we can use must. And if it is not important, we use don't have to or doesn't have to. Let's look at number 1. We make the video call now. We can do it tomorrow. Think now. Is it important or necessary to make the video call now? Or not necessary, we can do it tomorrow? Yes, here, the sentence, we can do it tomorrow. Great. So it is not necessary, it is not important to do it now. So here, we should use don't have to or doesn't have to according to the subject. The subject here is we. We don't, yes, have to. Great. Let's look at number 2. Nawal phoned her father. He wants to speak to her. Is it necessary or not necessary? Look here at this sentence. Yes. Nawal's father wants to speak to her. So it is necessary. The subject is Nawal. Great. Necessary, have to or has to. Nawal, the subject is singular. So we use, great. Yes, we use has to. Great. Number 3. You are going to be late. You are going to be late. So you run. Is it necessary to run or not necessary to run? You are going to be late. Great. It is necessary. So we use, the subject here, you. You, we use have to. And of course, if we have must here, we can use also must. Because as you remember, there is no difference in meaning between have to and must. Number 4. She played tennis with us. I know she doesn't like it. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like playing tennis. So is it important to play tennis with us or not important? Okay, because she doesn't like playing tennis, it is not important to play with us. So we have to use don't have to or doesn't have to. The subject is here. The subject here is she. She doesn't. Great. She doesn't have to. Good. The last one. It rained yesterday, so we water the garden. It rained yesterday. Is it important to water the garden today? Or it is not important? It rained yesterday. So yes, here it is not important to water the garden. So we have to use don't have to or doesn't have to. The subject here is we, plural. With we use don't have to. Good. So my students, again, I'd like to remind you with the topic of our lesson today. Our lesson today is about must and have to. Must and have to are used when the action is very important or very necessary, or when we want to say that something is important or necessary, and there is no difference in meaning between them. Now, when we want to talk about the something is not necessary or not important, we use don't have to or doesn't have to. Don't forget to use don't have to when the subject is I, we, they, and you. And we use doesn't have to when the subject is he, she, or it. Thank you, my dear students, for watching. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. يمكنكم متابعة هذا الموقف مرة أخرى من خلال الرابط أو الكود الظاهر أسفل الشاشة. Goodbye and see you later.